Nobody told you that you were carrying too much. They just kept handing you more. You were 7 years old, maybe 8, and somewhere in the middle of watching the adults around you fall apart, something shifted inside you, quietly, without warning, without permission. You looked around and thought, if I don't hold this together, nobody will. And just like that, the child in you stepped aside, and a much older version of you took their place. Nobody asked you to do that. Nobody thanked you for it either. They just called you mature. They called you responsible. They called you wise beyond your years. And you smiled because you had already learned that being useful was the closest thing to being loved that you were going to get. This is the psychology of a child who carried too much. And if you are watching this right now, I think some part of you already knows this video is about you. It does not start with one big moment. It starts quietly. Maybe your parents were always fighting. Maybe one of them was struggling with money, with anger, with something they never talked about. Maybe nobody was fighting at all, but nobody was present either. And you, as a small child, started to feel something, a weight, like the house needed someone to hold it together. And somehow, without anyone asking, you decided that person was going to be you. So you stopped crying when you were sad, because crying made things harder. You started reading the room before you spoke, because saying the wrong thing made everything worse. You became the one who checked if mom was okay, the one who kept the peace, the one who made sure nobody noticed that things were falling apart. And the world looked at you and said, wow, you are so mature for your age. But here is the truth nobody said out loud. You were not mature, you were scared, and you learned very early that the only way to feel safe was to make sure everyone else was okay first. Here is where psychology gets really important. When a child spends their early years managing adult emotions, their brain actually changes. Psychologists call this parentification. It sounds like a complicated word, but it simply means the child became the parent, and the parent became the child. And when this happens, your brain develops something called hypervigilance. Think of it like this. Imagine you are walking through a jungle, and there are lions. So your brain stays alert, always watching, always scanning. Is it safe? Is something wrong? What is about to happen? That is hypervigilance. And the child who carried too much, their brain is in that jungle every single day, even in safe rooms, even in calm relationships, even when nothing is wrong, because their brain learned. Calm is just the moment before something breaks. So stillness feels wrong, peace feels suspicious, and love feels like a debt they will eventually have to repay. Here is something that might surprise you. The child who carries too much does not grow up feeling broken. They grow up feeling capable because they learned that being useful was the safest way to be loved. So they became the good student, the responsible one, the friend everyone calls when they need help. The person who listens for hours but never talks about themselves. And here is the hard part. They got so good at that role that they forgot it was a role. They started to believe this is just who I am. But deep down, something hurts, something aches, a quiet pain that has no name, because from the outside, everything looks fine. But from the inside, you are exhausted from playing a character that was never actually you. It was never who you were. It was who you had to become to survive the home you grew up in. There is a difference, a big one. Before we go further, if this video is reaching something in you, if even one line has made you feel less alone, please like this video and subscribe to You Decoded. This is a brand new channel, and I am a one-person team working to create content that actually helps people understand themselves, not just content that performs. Every single like, comment, and subscription brings a smile to my face. It helps me wake up every day and keep creating valuable content drawn from real-life experience. Thank you. Now let's keep going. So what happens when that child grows up? They become adults who cannot rest. Not because they are busy, but because sitting still feels wrong. Because productivity became the only way they ever felt worthy. They become adults who cannot receive love easily. Someone compliments them. They deflect. Someone tries to take care of them. They say, "I'm fine." Because being taken care of feels strange, almost dangerous, like something will be asked in return. They become the friend who holds everyone's pain but shares none of their own. They listen to everyone. They fix everyone. They show up for everyone. And then they go home and they sit alone with everything they never said, and somewhere deep inside, a small voice asks a question they never know how to answer. Does anyone actually see me, or just what I do for them? That is not a personality trait. That is a wound. A wound from a child who learned that their needs were too much, so they made themselves smaller to make room for everyone else's. Here is what I really want you to hear. You were not strong because you were ready. You were strong because you had no choice. There is a massive difference between those two things. One is a gift. The other is survival. And the hardest part? Most people who grew up this way cannot even be upset about it because the parents were trying, or they had their own problems, or it was so long ago, or other people had it worse. So you add guilt on top of the wound. You carry the weight, and then you carry the guilt for feeling tired from the weight. That is exhausting, and you have been doing it for years, and nobody once stopped to ask if you were okay. Healing does not mean going back and fixing the past. You cannot do that. Healing means learning, for the first time, that your needs are not too much, that asking for help is not weakness, that resting is not laziness, that saying no is not betrayal. It means talking to the child inside you who worked so hard for so long and saying something nobody ever said to them. You did not deserve that. That was too much for one person, especially a child. You can put it down now. You might feel silly doing that. You might feel like it was not that bad. You might tell yourself others had it worse. But the child inside you does not need comparisons. They just need to be seen, for the first time, by you. Before we close, Weikao, write the one line from this video that hit you the hardest. Not for me, for the person who is going to open this video at midnight, feeling completely alone, and needs to see that someone else felt exactly this too. Your comment might be the most important thing someone reads today. Your maturity was never the problem. The problem was that you had no choice. But now you do. You can choose softness. You can choose rest. You can choose to stop managing everyone else's emotions and start honoring your own. You are not broken. You are someone who survived something that was never supposed to be yours to carry. And now, for the first time, you get to put it down. Not because you gave up, but because you finally understand you were just a child. And children are supposed to be held, not the ones doing the holding. If this video reached something in you, there are 3 more videos on this channel that will take this even further. If you recognize yourself as the person who gives everything but cannot receive, watch People Who Feel Exhausted After Being Around Others. It explains exactly where that exhaustion comes from. If you recognize yourself as the person who goes silent instead of speaking up, watch People Who Go Quiet instead of arguing, because that silence started in childhood too. And if you recognize yourself as someone who carries everything alone, watch People Who Prefer Texting over calling, because the reason you do that is connected to everything we just talked about. All 3 are already on the channel. Pick the one that sounds most like you. You spent years taking care of everyone else. Spend the next 8 minutes taking care of yourself.